Okay. So we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so I guess we need to determine if we're going to have a quorum for the duration of the meeting, because I know Pat Driscoll needs to go soon, if he hasn't already, because of conflicts with the planning board.
No, I'm still here.
Okay, so if Pat drops off, do we still have a quorum?
Yes, and Mark Lindy's joining at 6:30.
Okay,
Actually, Mark is in the waiting room.
Oh, look at that.
So you definitely have a quorum.
okay, so if we were concerned about that, I was gonna see if we could move the OPM update up, but I think since we have the quorum, we'll just we can maintain it. We'll just follow regular order then. So that means I have to allow opening remarks. Anything, Michael or Superintendent Swenson? Did he get on yet?
I don't see him on yet. I have nothing, John.
Okay. All right. Well, Derek's always free to say what he wants anyways. So we'll just move on. So 5 is approval of the previous meeting minutes. And we have two sets here, June 14th and July 12th.
Motion to approve the minutes of June 14th, 2021 and July 12th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, then we'll go to the roll.
All right, John,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Michael Loesch,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Mike Dolan,
Yes.
Pat Driscoll,
Yes.
Harsh Rebello,
Yes.
Matt Rushton,
Yes.
and Mark Lindy.
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimous.
All right. Moving on to agenda item 6, approval of Bacon payment requisition 7, vote required. So I think that's my cue to hand it over to Michael.
Thank you, John. And actually, to the other Michael, I'm not able to share my screen. I don't know if you need to make me host or if you have better controls than I do with my program, but it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
There you go. You should be all set, Mike.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Question first. That's the one. So first item here is Bacon requisition number 7. It's for the July pay period. It has been reviewed, revised, reviewed again, approved, recommended for approval by us and authorized by RDA. You see John Bartecki's signature here. Payment is in the amount of $1,792,000. Sorry, my controls are in the way. 503. Sorry about that. So we're seeking a motion to approve unless there are any questions.
Motion to approve Bacon payment number 7 in the amount of $1,792,503.
Matt Rushton, second.
Any discussion? All right, we'll take the roll.
All right. John,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Michael Osh,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Mike Dolan,
Yes.
Pat Driscoll,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Matt Rushton,
Yes.
and Mark Lindy.
Yes.
And that is unanimous.
All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Next item is change order number 2. This one here. So this, along with change order 3, was sent around with some narratives as written up by Gene from RDA, sort of explaining in depth the merits and the genesis of these changes. In this file here, we have, change order 2 cover sheet here and the backup within of these 4 PCOs that make it up. So we can, having had sent these around for review, I don't know if there's any questions that you have already, or if we're ready to go to a vote on this, or if we should, go through all the backup.
John, I have a question for Michael.
Could you zoom in,
Could
Michael?
I-
Yeah, great. Go ahead.
And I don't know if this is the one, I looked at both of them last night. One of them had $1,900 credit for fiber mesh versus the steel mesh that we typically put in the concrete slabs.
Yep,
Is this the one we're on?
that's the next one. That's in change
So is
order
that-
2.
All right, but just, I guess my question is structurally, I'm all for saving the $1,900, but structurally, isn't that steel wire mesh much better than the fiber mesh, the fiberglass, particles in the concrete?
Yeah.
And is that just on the grade, or is that on all floors?
So in certain applications, the wire mesh is much better, and that would be where there's a lot of deflection in the slabs. And in the case on this project, that would be the slabs on deck. And we left the wire mesh at the slabs on deck. It's the fiber mesh only at the slab on grade. But the reason for the change wasn't to save the money. It was actually because of material availabilities due to COVID. We were lucky to get the quantity that we did of the wire mesh for the slabs on deck. And there wasn't enough, so we had to prioritize the decks and get this substitution for the grade. It happened to be a little bit of a cost savings, but the reality was that the material just wasn't available.
It just seems long term though, it'd be much better to have that wire mesh versus the fiber mesh. If that concrete cracks, isn't it?
Right.
Isn't it much better for stability and the flooring and everything else to have the metal wiring in there?
Pat, this is John.
Yep, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They are considered equivalent. The one thing that the structural engineer asked is that the floor be saw cut a little more frequently to deal with, to help control some cracking, but this is an equivalent substitution that's been done for years. So it's not an issue with the EDG at all. We went through this with them. We discussed it at length. And he certainly approved it and felt that there'd be no negative impact on the slab on grade at all. He absolutely insisted that it not be in the slab on deck for the reasons that Michael iterated, that the movement in the slab on decks requires the mesh to help it control the cracking because the section is so thin.
So this is sitting on a compacted and inspected gravel base.
Oh, absolutely. There's anywhere from 12 to 36 inches of gravel fill from the bottom of the footing, and there's 8 inches of stone compacted under this. It's a stable floor. The mesh and the fiber mesh only control the cracking and the shrinkage and expansion of the concrete, and that's what the extra saw cuts are for, to make sure the fiber mesh can handle that expansion.
All right, thank you.
So are there any question on these 4 PCOs for change order 2?
Is Derek on?
I think Derek was on.
He was.
He's not on the participant list.
Yes, I'm on.
I think he's on
Yeah.
iPhone.
I'm on.
Oh, okay, I can see him now. So I really didn't have a question. I just wanted to give Derek the opportunity, the
I'm
glass.
driving Duber, Daddy Uber right now.
Okay. Yeah, the glass, I just wanted to know, the revised glass at the exterior. If that's something that you were in the loop on or had any questions.
So Gene, I don't know if you're there or if John, could you
Sorry, John.
could you give us a little background on that? I think
Yeah,
that's good news, right? We got what we wanted, but it was less, right?
that's correct. It's, well, what we do, we have a lot of consultants and, we have an electrical consultant and a mechanical and a structural and a civil and landscape. So one of them is our specification writer. And, when you look at the specs on this job, it's 6 inches thick with 5,000 pages. For whatever reason, the file that he copied from another job as the basis of design included this. I call it museum quality, but it's like ultra clear glass. It's not, it's nothing we've ever used on a school, but it's, more expensive. It's called Starfire. It has less iron content in the mixture. And like I say, it's like when you go to a frame store, sometimes you can buy various types of glass, depending how you want reflection or whatever. Anyway, so we saw that on the submittal and we're like, what the hell are we, excuse me, what are we doing, with this? And so we just asked for credit on it. There's absolutely no change to the security glass. There's no change, and you would have never had it on this project or any project.
So Bob, you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I just like a little more backstory on the revised door veneers.
On the what?
The revised door veneer.
It's really the same thing. I mean, I just got to own it. We intended this to be white ash, and all the wood trim in the building and all the casework P-lam is, was spec'd as white ash. And again, we didn't pick up that the spec writer, he had just carried over cherry from another spec, Bob. So we just, it would be not good to have, white ash and then all of a sudden these cherry doors. So, we asked for we asked for a substitution and it happened to cost that, I think it's $12,000 more.
Mhm.
So I mean, I just have to own it. It was like a, slip.
If there any other, or if there are not any other questions, I'd like to put this forward for a motion to approve. It's at a value of a credit, a negative value of $3,356.25.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion
So
to
can I
approve,
just-
Mark.
Sure. Michael?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mark. I apologize.
No
I
worries.
just want to clarify, we're voting for this change order to have a credit of $3,362.25, right? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that.
Correct.
This is a change order saving us money, not spending
It's a
money.
credit of $3,356.25 to the project.
Okay,
And it's, we're authorizing it, right? It's still going to come back around to us when the work's put in place and we'll scrutinize it in the billing and when it comes in a requisition. This is to authorize it to be done.
okay. This is only our second change order and it's very odd to me that we're voting to save money, but I'm all about it. Don't get me wrong. So with Mark's motion, I'll make a second then.
You give it back in change order 3, by the way, Mike. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right, I guess we'll take the roll.
All right, John,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Mike Loesch,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Mike Dolan,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Matt Rushton. Matt's on mute.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Thank you. And Mark Lindy.
Yes.
All right, unanimous.
moving on to change order 3, similarly, was sent around for review. Narratives from Gene were also sent out. This one has a little more to it, 7 PCOs. Here's that substitution for the fiber mesh for the welded wire mesh, that $1,900 credit there. This totals $55,959.60. This value, the 28,000, is the value of change order 1, which was about 31,000 minus the 3 that we just approved in change order 2. But this here, the 55, is the value of this. So similar to last one, anyone speak up if you have questions on individual PCOs, and we'll go to Gene's explanation, and if we have to, we'll go to the backup.
I just got a question on 26, the nurse shower stall.
Bob, we, our plumber, we showed a shower stall, but the plumbing spec, and it falls under the plumbing section, right? And the plumber thought we were tiling the shower, the plumbing engineer, I'm sorry, and they did not specify an acrylic shower surround. So we just, we never bought it in the contract, and we have to buy it.
The tile guy had reason to believe that a shower stall was going in, and the plumber had a reason to believe that tile was going in, so neither carried it.
Gotcha.
You picked the good ones, Bob.
It's jumping out. Sorry.
You're picking the embarrassing ones.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
All good.
That's good though.
Can we get a little more information? Sorry.
Oh, no. Go ahead, Mike.
On PCO 24 roof drain.
Yeah, John can go through this. This is something, again, we do, and it allows the job to move along much faster, but I'm sorry to keep saying this, our plumbing guy didn't catch up with us, but do you want to explain it, John?
One of the major downfalls of any of these projects is that, especially one of this size, it takes a very, very long time to get the permanent roof tight, which puts everything underneath in jeopardy. I don't know who's been out to the site, but you can see that all the ductwork on the second floor is all covered and wrapped in plastic to try to protect it from any weather. So what we do is we provide a vapor barrier that creates a temporary roof. And it makes the building tight long before the real roofing is tight, and it could be months. So all of the weather that the building is normally exposed to from vertical water running through the deck doesn't happen. It allows the building to be built in a dry state or a drier state. To do this, what has to happen is you set the roof drains down low at the deck level, run the temporary roof into the roof drains, and then when the final roof gets there, there's a roof drain extension that gets bolted to the roof drain to bring the rubber and the roof up to the level of the insulation, which is 4 to 6 inches. What the plumbing engineer didn't understand was that we were doing this. So
The temp roof.
the temp roof. So it's necessary to maintain our temp roof status, which we think accelerates projects by a good amount of time. we were going to continue with that. So to do that, we had to buy these extensions out of contract. I mean, you know, I'm saying not in the bid. So
Yeah.
it's just,
Right.
it's one of those things that was not caught, but we feel it's necessary to put the job in the position to succeed, because the drier the building, the better and the faster it will go. So that's the explanation of why it's there.
Thank you. That's helpful. Can I ask, just a follow up to that? In the dryer piece, I think we would all appreciate and want to do that. How much faster, I guess, and I'm not obviously looking for an exact time, but how much faster does it make the project go versus not doing this?
Well,
Does that make sense?
it does. So one of the things that is a critical point in the job is when you can start actually running wire in the metal studs in the walls. And
For
power. The two things that the electrical inspector will absolutely insist on is that the exterior walls be standing and the AVB, the waterproof barrier on the vertical walls, be installed. But they also will never let you run wire if there's water dripping off the deck. So that operation can't start until the finished roof is pretty much complete. So in my estimation, you could pick up 4 to 8 weeks, because you can start the wiring earlier, which means you can start drywalling earlier. You can start all the other roughing. So
Yeah, it's critical.
that
part.
is the critical part from a schedule standpoint. But it also creates an atmosphere in the building where the trades are working, not dodging raindrops. It's a psyche thing more than anything. So we have just found over the last few projects that we have seen an uptick in schedule. And I'm going to say it's at least a 4-week thing in my mind. We have a tight schedule. We're supposed to occupy this building a year from now. We need every advantage that we can possibly glean out of this project. And in our estimation, this is one.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Because right now, building A, where they're working, they have that temp roof half on when I was there yesterday. So I would anticipate, if the weather works with them, that by the end of this week, that temp roof in building A is going to be on. So that means that all those trades working in building A are going to be working in the dry, at least from a vertical standpoint, that the window's still going to blow the water in sideways, but they won't be dodging raindrops while they're working on ladders and lifts on the floor.
Okay, thank you.
John, can I just ask you a quick question about the sewer line size? Is that sewer line running directly into the town line, or is that sewer size within the building?
What the issue with this is that the civil drawings size the line based on a square foot basis of a building this size. As we all remember, I hope, we have many, many more toilets in this building than are normal.
Because of the pre-K and K, I mean, there's toilets all over the place.
So when the plumbing engineer did his final calculation, he ascertained that it needed to be an 8-inch line
Leaving the building.
And we never caught up with that with the civil. So the 70 or 80 feet of sewer line that got installed was 6-inch. Your main line from the town is 8-inch, but it's okay to go from 6 to 8 if the building was sized for a 6-inch sanitary. Unfortunately, the building was sized for 8, and you can't go from 8 to 6 and back to 8. You can, but it's just not hydraulically correct and good engineering practice. So once we realized that they had installed a 6-inch line, we asked for a price to change that 70 feet of 6-inch line to an 8-inch line.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you.
Bigger drain, the better.
Well, I just want to make sure the town doesn't have to install like a 12-inch sewer line somewhere.
No. It's a 6-inch line for a building this size is more than adequate with normal toilet counts. And then there's nothing that we did anything wrong. It's just one of the things that we did because of the pre-K and K was we put more toilets in, and it actually kicked it up from a 6 to an 8. So
No, that's perfect. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Any other questions on change order number 3? Do we have a motion to approve?
Matt Rushton, motion to approve.
Joe Oravec, second.
All right, why don't we take the roll?
All right, John,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Michael Osh,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Mike Dolan,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Matt Rushton,
Yes.
and Mark Lindy.
Yes.
That's unanimous. And if I'm missing any voting members, let me know. I'm just going off the folks that I see on the screen. So if I'm missing any voting members that I should get, please let me know. But it's unanimous.
All right, thank you. So moving on to the OPM update, we have our typical presentation taking us through the progress since last meeting. Similarly, our financial information updated since last meeting. And then at the end, I'll have to switch from this file to another. It's now called PCO 28. It's a rough order of magnitude price for our cedar fence substitution. We have, the graphic information that we sent out that I'll also be able to share. So we continue our streak of being on schedule overall, having a very safe site, no lost time incidents, a few COVID impacts on material availabilities that haven't necessarily hurt the project, but no impacts as far as, labor or crew availabilities. We had our topping off ceremony on 7/29. So the steel is substantially erected. It's, for the folks that were able to get out there, it's an impressive sight right now, seeing the full scale of the building structure. We have a lot of concrete work going on. I guess I'm going to take us from this to our look ahead schedule that's next, because that really takes us through these same activities here. We have our site work continuing this week at the retaining wall, which we'll talk about in depth, to do with the cedar fence substitution. Working on backfilling for the plumbing and electrical still. Slab on grade prep, that's for portions that have not been poured. Some of section A has been. We have guardrail sleeves going in and light pole bases. Skip down to systems contracting. That's our electrician. They're working on the under slab conduits now. NB Kenny, mechanical contractor, also working on underground. Ajax is the steel erector. They're working on the detailing at parts B and C. That's all the sort of not miscellaneous metals, but miscellaneous steel that is part of the structure. Back Bay Concrete is our concrete finishers. Been doing a great job passing all of the flatness and level tests for all the slabs so far. General Mechanical working on the HVAC. We have ductwork, ton of ductwork on site, which was good to see, because that's one of the things that's been an issue with material availability through COVID. That ductwork, with this being a lead project, is all covered, elevated on sleepers, and treated how we need it to be treated. We do have the roofer on board. As we could see from the stacks of insulation that we have on top of the roof. Masons on board. We have CMU going up. We have, as we have been with the backfilling, with the retaining wall, with the steel, now with the masonry, we have our third-party testing and inspections ongoing. Colony Drywall, they're in doing the exterior metal stud framing. We have our in-place mock-up section complete, reviewed, commented on by the subcontractor, their comments commented on by us. That's something we're really highlighting for quality control so that we can point to it throughout the rest of the project as sort of a milestone of where we want to be. Then as they complete the skylight framing, Avid Ironworks will come in with the miss metals for the skylight framing clips. Couple progress photos. Here's that ductwork I was talking about. Slab on grade prep here. That's actually some nice looking membrane. Here we are with the slab poured and curing. The exciting underground work. The actually exciting exterior framing work here. It's an aerial photo. So here's the side of the retaining wall. Out front is what we're going to be talking about shortly. So a major milestone schedule, or we're still in the portion of the project with big long activities that take us through the month. So we continue our second Monday of the month. Looks like October is a holiday. John, do you want to talk about getting off that date now?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, we could move it to the Tuesday, we could move it to the third Monday of that month. I mean, whatever works.
I guess my sense is that the Monday works for everybody, whether that off cycle works or not. So what does the committee think? Does anybody have a preference or a conflict if we move it back to it would be October 18th?
We have a comment from Mark saying third Monday works better for him.
Okay.
Same as well as Mark.
All right, well,
Easy.
why don't we go with the 18th then?
I'll update on the overall schedule. Total project update. Unchanged except for amount paid to date. Here's our pro-pays 1 through 20 currently submitted, been reimbursed through 1 through 18, outstanding on 19 and 20.
I think we also just submitted 21.
All right, we did just submit 21.
Yep.
So moving on to cedar fence substitution. I guess I'm going to start with Bacon's PCO because they do a pretty good job of running through what it is. And I'm going to go back to back and forth to the graphics. But what we asked them to do was furnish and install this many linear feet of this type of cedar fence. It's in replace of this black vinyl chain link fence. They've told us that they no longer need to core drill into the block of the retaining wall to install that chain link fence. But now we have to install ground sleeves into the into what's behind the wall, which includes a structurally filled assembly, including geogrid. and the costs that come along with that. So I think we've all seen where on the site this was. This is the entry to the site right in here, and this is that sort of front face that you'll see that comes up. These are the two most affected neighbors here, and these are sort of what their sight lines would be of that wall. We proposed and we'd asked for pricing, which we now have, to change this chain link fence from this corner all the way down here to this cedar fence. So it'd be just along here, the fence similar in look to this. We then developed sketches for them to price, right? This is the bubbled area, changing that linear footage of fence. So the design elevation of it. This was designed at one point where we thought we could core into the block. Once this went to the contractor, we realized that the block itself would have to change to achieve that. So it was much more economical to move behind the block and install the sleeves. So that's when the plan changed from this sketch.
Mike, just to add to that, it was the wind load against the solid wood fence in those blocks. And that's the reason why we felt it was better to suit it within the soil behind the block so that the sleeves would hold it and it would stabilize the fence a lot better.
Right, yeah, so the reason that the blocks had to change is because the wind load, necessitated that. So this still ROM pricing, it's rough order of magnitude. It hasn't been fully vetted, and we'll still go back and forth getting it to its final form. But it does give us a good sense of what the overall impact would be, around this much. And, the reason it's being brought up now before it's in its final, form, vetted by us, approved by RDA, is because of where we are in the schedule with that retaining wall and the way the sleeves would have to be installed. We asked if they could continue with the retaining wall and, auger in the sleeve or, auger in something into the installed retaining wall assembly. And the way that they have to tension that geofabric, you can't penetrate it after it's installed and tensioned. You have to do it prior to the tensioning. And that's happening, in the schedule sequence right now. So what we've asked of the committee, the reason we're presenting this is that we want to be able to tell Bacon and their site contractor Catalano to proceed with this work based on our understanding, proceed with just the installation of the sleeves, with the understanding that it's around this value, as we work to reduce it, to clean it up. We are, built into the fencing price. We do have that credit for the core drilling, which is around $5,100. So if you look at this as a standalone activity, you would deduct that $5,100, from this. So, but what we're asking for is to be able to tell Bacon and Catalano, it's likely that this is the direction of the project. Your initial pricing hasn't, blown us away essentially. And, in order to keep things moving with the retaining wall and keep our full options available, we'd like you to proceed with this work as we finalize the pricing with you. So if anyone has any questions, I could take us back through the materials, or maybe we could hear from RDA.
Yeah, maybe we could just have an explanation, a better understanding of why we're considering this. And then I want to open it up to everybody else, but so the urgency of calling the emergency meeting, this was the basis for doing it, was because of the portion that needed to go into the ground that could have affected the schedule. But because it was tied to a change that would ultimately be more than 25,000, I didn't feel as though the financial subcommittee should handle that. So the third item, Michael, I didn't realize that 47,000 of the number we had discussed initially included adding landscaping. So really this is two separate things, right? One is the shielding for the headlights, which I want you to go over, or Gene, and adding the screening because we don't want to look at an ugly wall. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. So there's the price is broken out, still rough, but into these three buckets, right? This is the site work that we need to do schedule wise right now, if this is what we want. This is the fence, which is a net add. It includes the credit for the, fence
Right.
that was there. And then this 13,000 is for the additional plantings and mulch, as shown on there.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out because committee members might feel differently about the two elements of that.
And again, we don't need to, release them on the fence itself or the plantings right now. Ultimately we'll be presenting that as as an approved, or, as a fully vetted PCO to this group for a vote in that way.
As the footing that we would be approving, is it dependent on the type of fence that we want? Like if we don't want cedar and we want chain link with slats, is it the same footings that they'd be authorized to go with?
Yeah,
It would be very similar. It would be very similar, John.
Okay.
You need a base footing in there to secure anything for the wind load portion of it. You won't have as much on a, chain link with slots that you would with the cedar fence because of the weight and the mass of it, but you would still need that same type of sleeve footing to support it.
So again, I'm getting ahead of the discussion here, but so if we can't decide what type of fence we want, you can still move forward with this footing?
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'd be a little over engineered for just a chain link fence, but it works.
Right, but at some point, we're doing this to keep things moving along, so, okay.
Correct.
So I want to either open it up to Gene to give a little bit of explanation, or if any of the committee members have questions, right away, they could do that.
6 feet to 14.
Yeah. 3 feet.
So this is something that came out of neighbor participation, probably 3 or 4 months ago. There were a number of trees on the school site that it turns out when they were taken down, it really exposed the backyards and even the houses of the neighbors out on South Street. To
Michael, could you pull up that plan again, the site plan? Sorry, Gene.
Yeah, oh, no problem. Oh, that was a good one, actually. Well, okay, that's fine. But
It's oh, this one that shows the cars?
yeah. So I didn't think of this, but I think the neighbors did. All of a sudden they're like, wow, if there's cars driving around up there, on a early winter, 5 o'clock when it's dark, these headlights are going to be shining through, toward our house. And so that's why we're recommending kind of a solid screen, I'll say. I think it really should be cedar. I think that's going to be aesthetically much more pleasing than a chain link fence with plastic slats in it. But either way, when the wind hits something that's not transparent, like a black chain link fence, that's why you have to have these sleeves in the ground to kind of resist that tendency to overturn. So you can see kind of cars lined up, and if you do the 6-foot cedar fence, that is going to screen the neighbors from headlights and even seeing the cars. And I think it's only fair because it was very hard to imagine what would happen, when all the trees were taken out, and it really did expose the backyards. And then the other thing you can see on this is from the right side, the height of the wall is fairly low, but as it goes over to the left, the left corner of this thing, I think, is 12 or 14 feet high.
Right.
Now it's not an ugly concrete wall. These are big concrete blocks, but they're all formed so that it looks like, smaller stones. So each 4 foot long by 2 foot high face, is broken up into 3 or 4 stone-like, kind of reveals. But again, I think, especially where you know, and it's your money, but where the project is really in good financial shape, that it would be kind of a good neighbor thing to do to, you know, spend $15,000 on evergreen planting.
Gene, I just want to add, I was the one that interfaced with most of the neighbors, and part of what you're describing is probably critical. That left side, as you indicated, goes high. As people drive around and have that chain link fence, that actually is almost shining on their second floor of their houses because they're in a little bit of a depression there. So the reason and the discussion of it was to try to block not only the headlights, but the visual portion of it from the school to their houses. And that was the whole discussion initially when we decided to have a, you know, a change order brought to the committee in lieu of having the chain link going or the barred fence to a more solid fence so that they had a little bit more privacy. The greenery and the, you know, shrubs and the trees that we wanted to put there was not only to help out with what vegetation was removed, but to give it a little more architectural softness along that area of the hardscape of the wall in that fence area. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents into it because I did meet with them on several different occasions and discuss the, you know, the couple of different options that we were trying to proceed here.
This is John. I'd just like to say that Gene and I just did these exact plants on 600 feet of road in Orange, and the neighbors were thrilled with the screen they produced. So these arborvitaes really do the job of providing an effective screen almost immediately. So
are they deer resistant? I just wanted to ask that.
Are they what?
Deer resistant? Like
I wouldn't know that. I don't know that. But this same landscape architect that is in Bridgewater is the same one we're using in Orange. And
Okay.
these are the plants she recommended in Orange, and they provided an immediate effective screen for 600 feet of roadway that's going to be the main thoroughfare in and out of the school. So it just.
Can I just ask a quick question, guys?
Sure.
Yep. So we're specking out arborvitae, right? I thought they were 10 feet tall,
7 to 8 at nursery.
7, 8, okay.
So they, you know, the giants are gonna grow to 12, 13
Mhm.
probably.
Yep.
And the smaller ones are probably gonna grow to 10.
So I guess my only thing I want to throw out here, and sorry, Gene, if I'm sounding like a Debbie Downer or anything, but the snow load on that fence, when we, you know, operationally, there's not much room in that area. And it's pretty much a drive that's on that side. How much area are we gonna have to be able to place snow along that fence without making that thing belly out and possibly
So that's
knocking it down the hill?
Is that about 4 feet? I'm sorry, I'm trying to scale it off the drawing as we look at it.
Bob, I don't think when
Is
we,
that right
when
here?
we talked about snow early on, I don't think we ever talked about piling it up on these walls. And
Well,
know,
you're
but-
not going to wind load as you're plowing, that's all.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, if we get like 3, 4 storms in a row and stuff, we're gonna develop a pretty decent bank on that side there. And my only question is, if we're already specking out almost a 10-foot arborvitae, do we need that fence? I'm just throwing it out there because it concerns me a bit.
The fall hazard is part of my concern, where you have 14-foot of block wall, you're gonna need some type of fencing along that area. And I
Okay,
think,
so-
you know, I think the shrubs aren't gonna be on the inside section of that fence. They're gonna be the neighbor side of
outside.
the fence. So I don't think the shrubs is really gonna be the question. And I think it's gonna come down to operations, Bob. You know, your guys, when you go to snow plow that area, you may have to turn your wind blades to push it to a point where you can start to push it where there's more of a landscaped area to pile it. I mean, you will, with any parking lot, a narrow landscape bed of that nature, you will get some wind load there, but you're just gonna have to position it, you know, depending on the site layout, that how it is.
And
I
that's a
totally get
long,
what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah, that's a long drive right there. That is
Yeah,
a
you
very
bet.
long drive to push that all the way down, and it's easier said than done.
yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah.
But I want to say from the roadway to the fence itself, Gene, what's that? 5 feet, 4.5 feet? Roughly?
And that's what I'm saying, Bob. I think when we first had our conversations about plowing, we never talked about we would be piling snow. There would be a snow bank, but piling snow against that fence, I don't think was ever part of the
No, it
plan.
never was. It never
No.
was. I'm just thinking like, you get 3 or 4 snowstorms in a row, you got a decent bank there. At least with the chain link fence, that thing's just gonna slowly melt, or, it's got a way to get through instead of just piling up against a 6-foot cedar fence is my concern. But
Okay, I mean, it can be a fence with slats if that's but the cedar is, this is about neighbors also, and the cedar is what. will
And you have
approve that.
cedar right now anyway, John, coming in from the entranceway along that first neighbor. We were
That's
just
correct.
trying to keep that fence similar in nature and material going the whole length, that's all.
I'm not advocating for the chain link at all. I'm just saying
No,
that
I know.
if it had to
just-
be, I don't think any of us are gonna die over it, but we're building something here that's supposed to really look nice, and this is part of it.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, we always owned a piece of fence coming in through the entranceway to the corner.
Mhm.
That, we own that cedar, either way.
Well, this is Mike. I'd like to respectfully ask that when we get this change order, that the shrubbery and the fence are in 2 change orders, not the same one. And then the other piece is this cedar fence. Is it going to be touching the ground? Is it potentially, if it's cedar? My concern is, the reality is cedar fences don't last forever. So we will have to budget. Well, frankly, that'll have to go into our capital plan if the fence needs to be replaced in 15 years. If it's touching the ground. And I guess the other part of that question is, how is it put into the ground? Are we using cedar posts, or are we using metal posts and attaching the fence to that metal post?
It's a metal post design, Mike, where the fence will be a few inches up above the ground. The posts do not go in the ground. The fence does not go in the ground.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mike, I noted that. We will request that from Bacon. That's not a problem to split it into separate changes.
Thank you.
So just along those same lines, this is going to be somebody's responsibility, I would assume, from facilities for upkeep to reseal this fence and repair it on a yearly basis if needed, which is going to be an additional cost. And also, I'm sure this was sent out and I just missed it. What is the exact cost difference if we have that between the 2 fences?
If we have the cost difference just between purely the chain link and the cedar?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's it right here. This is the net cost right here. The cedar is an extra 15,000.
And then Michael, I just wanted to jump in and the cedar is just going to weather naturally. There's no sealing, there's no work that has to happen to it. And I know these fences just from personal experience. We have MBTA train tracks that run right through our historic downtown, and the town made them put in these cedar fences with steel posts and rails. And they've been up for 20 years. I mean, as long as you keep them out of the ground, the water sheds off and they gray just like, cedar shingles, down on the Cape or whatever.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want to ask another question about something that we as a committee need to plan for and going forward is these bushes or shrubs that are going to be put in. Who's going to be responsible for maintaining those? If it's us, that means the district has to go on those people's properties to gain access to those shrubs.
They're not
So
on their
we-
property, so Mike, it's actually, there's a strip of land between the wall and their property line that they would be planted on our property.
Right, right, Joe. But I guess my question is, how would our grounds crew get to those to maintain them? We don't have to decide that now. It's just something that sort of
Good
came to
question.
mind as
Do we have
we
a
were
site
at-
plan handy that shows the property line?
Have to.
Those would be allowed to reach full maturity, correct? I mean, like 6 by 20, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, these are literally evergreen trees.
Yeah.
So they certainly won't require any trimming. At some point, they just stop growing, you know?
Gene, would you be quick on the draw with an overall plan?
I won't be quick on the draw, but I'll look for one.
All right, I'm digging too.
Okay. Maybe there's other questions while we're digging. I don't know.
I'm just concerned with the we put these in and they become overgrown in the opinion of the neighbor. And here we are now having to go trim them, maintain them, clip them, whatever it is. We just, again, we don't have to decide it now. I'm just bringing it up because it's something that I think we need to think about as a committee if we vote to put these in. That's all. I don't mean to beat a dead horse.
Mike, I've got a drawing here.
If
it helps.
Well, I have it loading, but I have the whole volume 1 loading. It's taking.
Okay, yeah, I've got like a little, let me just, if you don't mind, do you mind if I share?
Not at all.
John, Lisa has a question I saw.
Button doesn't mind.
I think you've disabled participant screen sharing, Mike.
Oh, you should be good, Gene.
Oh,
No.
there we go.
Lisa, did you have a question? I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I am happy that I looked up those arborvitae and the juniper, and they're both deer resistant, which is good for this area because they're very hungry in Bridgewater.
Oh,
And then
nice.
I just had, it kind of goes along with what Mike said, because there's going to be mulch around them. So it's going to look really nice when it goes in for the neighbors. But, you know, I think that's something the district has to plan on every year, mulching or, you know, making it look decent in the future. That was just my kind of comment.
Can you all see my screen? See a picture. So, you know, these are the arborvitae. You know, the cedar is just, it's, you know, going to look like a cedar fence. But to answer your question, if I zoom in, the fence we're talking about is this dashed line on the right here where my cursor is going up and down, and then the wall, and then these trees are down on the, you know, the lower end of the wall. And then the property line is this thin line right over here. So I guess to answer one question, they're on your property, which Mike had said. And then you know, as far as getting to them, I just don't think you're going to have to unless there's some sort of catastrophe and, you know, one of them gets tipped
Gene,
over.
could we put a gate over by, you know, bush 1?
Yeah, I mean,
Where
just
it's
put a
all
gate
this
in.
action right there?
If you're concerned about it, we could just put a gate in, but
Yeah, it's a good idea, Joe, because this is only like, you know,
Only
down
2 foot right there. I mean,
2 or 3
it's
feet.
really nothing to get in.
Yeah, so good point.
But back to Mike Dolan's point, given the proximity of the stone wall, the size of the trees, and the proximity to the new retaining wall, it would be highly unlikely that you could maintain those trees without stepping on the neighbor's property. So it is a valid concern. I don't know if it's a showstopper, but it's a valid concern. There's no way you're going to maintain them from above. And even if you go through a gate, you won't be able to walk between the trees. If you see the picture on Gene's screen, you know, you can't walk between them, and you won't be able to walk between the trees and the wall, the new wall. So you're going to have to be on the neighbor's property to prune and mulch. So it is something that you have to consider, Mike Dolan, and how you're going to handle that. Yes.
How about watering? And as they're growing, they're going to need to be cared for in that way. What's over there to help us bring water to them?
Well, they're watered for the first year by the landscaper.
Okay.
And after that, they're established and it's natural water. If there's enough rain, they live. If there's not enough rain, you're going to have to bring hoses from the building if you're going to be watering your landscape. But we have no provision for watering landscaping now. It was not something that we decided to do.
Well, John, we could put a sleeve in underneath that roadway and get, you know, in the situation that we wanted to bring water, but we can do that as as being proactive and allowing some type of irrigation hose to come
We
across.
could, it's just right now, we're counting on the fact that the first year is owned by the landscaper with a
Right.
water truck. And after that, they're established and the landscaping lives or dies based on the climate, so.
But Kathleen's point is valid. I mean, we could put in a sleeve under that roadway to put a pipe if we had to, Kathleen.
Right, we'll talk to Bacon and we'll consider what the best way to handle that is, because it needs to be done sooner than later, I think, so.
Right, that was my point. Yep.
If I could ask a question, on the, more on a safety, sort of the safety side, how are we preventing, if we're gonna move that fence back, instead of right on top of that wall, and we're gonna move it back, that's gonna create more of a ledge. Are we gonna make sure that we can prevent kids from climbing out on that ledge and then walking further down where it gets to be like a 12-foot?
We're never gonna prevent them from doing it, Mike. We can put the gates in, we can, the fences up, we can close them off, but if a kid wants to climb that wall and walk between the fence and the edge of the wall, there's nothing we're gonna do to prevent that.
Yeah, so there'll be, Mike, there'll be a guardrail, right, for vehicles.
Mhm.
And then the fence will be set back here, 6-foot high fence.
But the point is valid, they can, if someone climbed out on that wall, climbed or scaled up the wall, they could walk along that wall between the fence and the edge of the wall.
Yeah, but I mean, that could happen in a lot of situations.
That's what I'm saying, it can happen
anywhere
anywhere.
in the
We
world.
have 1,000 feet of wall where that's the case. So, I mean, if that's a legitimate concern, we need to think about how we're gonna handle that, but the entire wall is this way.
Was that your point, Mike, or?
Yeah, no, I was just curious if there was, some kind of barrier or fence or something
Deterrent.
sort of at the low end of the wall to
The only thing I can think
discourage.
of is pigeon spikes, like,
Oh.
but you're not gonna keep someone from getting on that wall if they wanna get there. I don't think.
We could put some type of a bollet or something at the end
There's a
of that
lot of
wall.
things we can attempt to do, but I'm just
Right.
not sure that any of them are gonna be effective. If a 10-year-old wants to climb on that wall, there's nothing we're gonna be able to do about it.
Well,
You'll get
they won't get to it from the school because that's a 6-foot high fence, right? But Mike, you're saying they could hop up here and then just walk
Yes,
along and,
exactly.
Right.
so they'd have to do it from the neighbor's property, I guess, or
But
somehow.
the arborvitae will be growing that way, so
Yeah.
you won't want to walk through that.
Again, we can plant poison ivy on the top if you want. We can plant briar bushes on the top.
Fire bushes has more immediate effect than the
Yeah,
poison
right.
ivy.
Yeah, poison ivy.
So let me,
I'm sure we can find some cheap briar really thorny bushes to plant up there.
We're not trying to
Deter them.
initiate any harm to any child. We're just trying to prevent any damage to them. That's all, John.
let me ask this question. Are these things linked together? Like if for some reason we move forward with the cedar fence or at least the footings for it, and then we choose not to put in, for whatever reason, the arborvitae, is that going to change anything we would do with the cedar fence?
No.
No.
Okay.
Cedar fence is on one side of the wall and the planting is on the other side, John.
And you can reduce the number of plantings too. You may want to only do it in a section where you don't need it along the whole. That can be a discussion once the change order is broken out.
So that's where I was trying to go, not to, cut off any discussion, but just to move it along, is that, and this is the basis for, I think, Mike Dolan asking for this to be two separate COs, change orders, because we may want to move forward with the cedar fence and allow the footings to be put in for it. And then, later we can talk about this, because we're not really going to vote to approve this whole thing tonight, I don't think.
Right.
We're going to probably take a motion to move forward with the footings in support of a cedar fence when the formal change order comes in. Is that right, Michael?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like we have to close on this, because we did bring up a lot of good points here, and
Like next month.
maybe there's a different solution for that whole wall screening, which may or may not live. But I didn't want to end any discussion or questions on it. I just wanted to point that out. So if anybody still has any questions.
So I'll make the motion to approve the installation of the footings. Mike, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know what the total was. I didn't write that down before you flipped that screen.
I could share it back. Gene, you want to stop share?
It's gonna be less than that number though with the $5,100 credit, correct, Mike?
Yes, but that's a little, it's all built into the overall, fence cost. That credit's coming from the fencing company. So,
We could do a not to exceed, and then when you have the final change order, we can wrap it all in, so.
so this is the value, we may fail in beating it down, right? I mean, there's still discussions to be had. So basically, I guess the motion would be to authorize the OPM to direct the contractor to proceed with the work contingent on final acceptance of the pricing.
And not to exceed $15,697.69.
If Joe says that, then yes.
Well, so we can refer to item 1. Right?
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, you can call it
that
item 1.
defines, yeah, that defines what we're really proceeding on.
So I'll make that motion.
So the motion
Bill
would,
second.
okay, so just to maybe clarify, right? So we're making a motion to proceed on potential change order 28. The scope related to item number 1 for the changes in the retaining wall and footings for a cedar fence in lieu of a chain link fence on top of the wall.
And John, this does not mean that we're approving the cedar fence. This is just the work that will, if we do decide at a future meeting to put a cedar fence in, this will support that fence. Correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Correct. And that's
Okay.
why I think item 1, that
Yep.
description, if we tie it to that, it's clear, because item 2 is the fence cost itself, which we're not acting on right now. That's the way I read it anyways. And then item 3 was the plantings, which, we're clearly not ready to close on that yet. So that was a lot of people contributing to that motion, but Mr. Dutton, do you have that?
I have enough for now.
Okay.
I'll take it off the recording.
All right. So is that a real motion then, or do we need to?
Yep, you've got,
Clear.
nope, that's fine. That Mike Dolan motioned and Lil seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion on that before we take a vote? All right.
All right, John,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Michael Loesch,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Mike Dolan,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Matt Rushton,
Yes.
and Mark Lindy.
Yes.
Thank you. It's unanimous.
Okay. So thank you all for that discussion. Michael, does that was tied to your OPM update, so
Yep, that concludes my OPM update. What the other big item we wanted to go over that I brought up with you was the interior wall upgrades, thoughts and menu. But I think that falls under the design update, so we can kick it to that.
Okay. Moving on to RDA then, item 10, designer update.
I think I will share my screen again. I had sent out, I didn't realize, so I apologize. It only went out this morning, but Michael tickled me. I said, hey, please send this thing out. What I wanted to go through with you is something that frankly, I just kind of dreamed up because we've been getting submittals from Bacon Construction. And one of the submittals is for drywall in the building. And maybe, well, anyway, I looked at this as a potential, kind of knowing that the project, again, was in such good financial condition, and knowing that during the finishes and kind of the design work portion of the project, the district was very cognizant about minimizing long-term costs, operational costs, gosh, can we use rubber instead of VCT because you don't have to wax it? Or can we, do terrazzo because it'll last forever and we don't have to do anything to it. So what we have in the set of plans, and Bacon owns, quote unquote, is, our typical drywall package. All right. And there's nothing wrong with it. And you don't have to do any of these potential upgrades, I'm going to call them. And just to give you a sense of comfort, what's in your project is, the same wall finish package that we put in an urban middle school, right? Up in the city of Lynn, like 5 years ago. And, it's worked just fine. So this may be a case of where I'm overcomplicating things and thinking too much and driving you crazy. But again, kind of knowing what we went through on finishes, I wanted to at least throw it out there. So a few weeks ago, I had sent this off to Derek and Bob, Bob being responsible for maintenance, and the CHA team. And what we had done was create, provide this little worksheet which shows, different room types, and then what the existing wall finish is and what the potential upgrade would be. And really what we're talking about is drywall like you have in your house, right? Except the product that we use in commercial situations is tougher. It's more durable, but it still has that paper face. So I don't know if you've ever been like, I don't know, you ever like taken the corner of the desk or something and kind of moved it and say, oh gosh, I just put a dent in the wall. What you could do, which is more expensive, is you could have that lower 4 feet of wall be something. It's called a product like fiber rock, but it doesn't have a paper face. It's more a composite board, and it's not a cement board, but you can think of it like that. It's just very durable. And so what I said to myself is, well, maybe there's some places in the school where they might want to substitute the drywall and use this product. And then they wouldn't have to worry if I don't know, a file cabinet was pushed around and it, kind of nicked the drywall. When you hit this other type of material, it just doesn't bounce, bounces off. So we had pulled together again this worksheet because John had run some. Now these are RDA figures; they're not Bacon figures, but kind of based on his experience and pricing, he had pulled together some order of magnitude, ideas. The magnitude of changing it in all the classrooms for the lower 4 feet. might be X number of dollars. Or if you wanted to, maybe in the administrative office where there's more file cabinets and desks, if you want to do that suite, we kind of broke it down to area G. So we went through the building and we just, identified kind of swaths of room types. And then, some of them we said, there's no need, like in your telephone or data closets, we already have a plywood wall finish because, you'll be screwing equipment to it over the years. So there's really no upgrade. Another situation is like in the corridors. We have drywall, but the first 4 feet of it, so from the floor level up 4 feet, right, which can be stomach level, chest level on some of us, is porcelain tile, and you're not going to damage that if you are going down the hallway with something and you kind of sideswipe it. And the other, but again, and maybe I'm overthinking it, I just wanted to throw some of these options out there for people to consider. The other thing to keep in mind is you really have a building with little kids in it. So in the hallways, the chances of the paper face drywall getting damaged above 4 feet are pretty slim, right? The kids aren't that high and they're not that heavy, and they're not really that crazy. They're crazy in other ways, but not violently, So I know that Mike went through it with Bob and Derek, and Mike, maybe you can chime in here because I wasn't part of any of the discussions that came out of that.
Well, this is where we want to have those discussions, Gene. They haven't progressed as you're alluding to.
Right. So do you want me to just run through, the various areas and what we think the order of magnitude might be? And
yeah, I think the goal here would be to hear from the committee as a whole, which ones we want to focus on going to the next level with getting information from Bacon and putting more thought into.
Great. So I don't know if people can see my screen. I assume they can with the worksheet on it. Yep. Okay, great. So bathrooms, we have a lot of kind of private bathrooms, like you'd have in the pre-K, or you'd have, for maybe a teacher, bathroom. And then we have gang bathrooms like you have down on the ground floor across from the cafeteria and the gym. You have a big men's room and a big women's room with a lot of fixtures. So what we own in there is the typical drywall. But again, like the corridors, the first 4 feet is porcelain wall tile, which is very durable. If you said to yourself that you might want to turn the above 4 feet and go to the ceiling, which is probably 10 feet, and turn that into, I'll call it fiber rock, it's probably about a $68,000 upgrade, right? And why might you consider that? I don't know. Weekend use, and maybe the kids are bigger and maybe they're more rowdy and they're just kind of going crazy because they're playing basketball and all that stuff. In the single bathrooms, again, we have the wainscoting. And, if you want to take, remember, we were talking about the sewer pipe and how many bathrooms there are. I don't think you need to do this, but if you wanted to, go from 4 feet up to the ceiling and change out the wall, that'd be about $82,000. Again, I don't think little kids in the pre-K kindergarten bathrooms, I don't think the adults staff where these other private bathrooms are gonna do, anything crazy. The gymnasium is an interesting one. We have wall pads all around the perimeter, 7 feet high, right, the height of a door. And then we have these cement acoustical panels that go up another oh, what are they? Between 7 and 14 feet. So, you know, you have another band of 7 feet that's a very rugged painted surface. It's there for acoustic purposes, but you can chuck a basketball at it, a softball, and you're not going to cause any damage. So the ceiling is up around 25 feet because it's a basketball court. And so from 14 feet tall, high up to the underside of the roof, you know, we have the regular abuse resistant drywall. So to kind of switch that out to maybe, I'm going to call it the fiber rock, you know, is about $12,000, you know, order of magnitude. And again, you might want to do that because you can't control, maybe you can't control what's going on in rec leagues. I mean, 14 feet's pretty high to throw stuff, but again, I guess I kind of remember when I was let loose in a school gymnasium, you know, sometimes fun things happen. The PE storage room, we you know, we have the abuse resistant drywall. One thing we might want to do is substitute that, make it like the data rooms, and you might want to not do drywall. You might want to do fire treated plywood that's painted, just because I don't know if, you know, 10 years from now they want to put a hook up and have jump ropes hanging, or they want to, you know, I don't know, hang things off the wall. So that's just one room. It's next to the gym, and it's about $5,600, you know, if you wanted to consider that. I'm just droning on, so I can do the whole summary, or we can, which maybe is okay, but is it getting repetitive or?
Does anyone on the committee have any thoughts on, you know, some of the bigger items, or, you know, just the overall theme of, you know, what we're trying to achieve here? Because, you know, really, we would, if it was free, we would pick all of this, right? So it just becomes a cost, you know, versus benefit issue. And we want to make sure that we're sort of headed in the right direction, doing our due diligence, you know, pursuing things like this, but also, you know, with this specifically, you know, maybe it's the case that we ask, you know, Bacon to price all of this, and you know, and the thoughts that we'll proceed with it, or maybe not. You know, does anyone have any sort of overall thoughts?
I would just like to hear from Bob and what his thoughts are.
Sure. Overall, I think the current spec for drywall is okay as is. I do like the idea of the PE room for storage. Those rooms will get beat up very badly over time. So maybe let's say a change order, line item for installing the plywood. I think, be it's an elementary school and everything, I think we're pretty good. I feel confident on the current scope.
Yeah, and I will say, you know, there's a reason why we included the current scope, right? We, you know, like I said, if it was free, we would include all this stuff, but, you know, we were balancing, you know, the use of the school with the occupants that we know will be in there versus, you know, it is an abuse resistant product that we did carry. So
The only thing I would also say is just the current environment, and trying to spec out things that we use in our other buildings. I just think that if we conserve money now, and we may potentially see some increases in costs for FF&E in the future. So that makes me hesitant just to go ahead in a direction like this. That's just my honest opinion.
Yeah. Well, as I said, and I'll stop talking, but you know, this might be a case of Gene overthinking things. That's what architects do sometimes.
well, that's what we want, though, right?
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
You know, it's just having this, you know, as a thought, as a benefit to the project. But Gene, could you kind of very quickly take us through the other areas without really getting into depth, just to see if there's something out that jumps out, that like the PE storage that jumped out to me too, you know, because it has sort of a secondary reason,
Yeah.
like protecting the walls too. Is there anything else like that?
Yeah, I'll just go to like the maximum, the biggest one is, let's say all your classrooms, you wanted to do it for the first 4 feet, just again, if a file cabinet or chair or something, that's like $120,000. So it's a pretty big hit.
Yeah.
So the other ones, most of it's about that fiber rock, to answer your question. The custodial areas are already kind of taken care of because they have this fiberglass product, floor to ceiling. Mike, to be honest, no,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other ones that aren't just
Well,
kind of
And what
upgraded.
about, I think down below you had can you go to page 2 again?
Sure, yeah.
2 items, like the small group rooms or the nurse's office and discrete trial testing. Are those particular areas where there might be more of a reason to have tougher walls in there?
I don't think so, because they're all really, they're all areas, instead of a classroom, a small group room is, a teacher with a table and 3 or 4 kids, so if anything, it's more supervision, and the discrete testing is a teacher and a child, one-on-one in a very small room, so.
Thank you, Gina. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee?
I just had one on the discrete trial testing. Is that like the de-escalation rooms? They're not.
It's not, Lisa, but that's actually what I was kind of getting at in pointing that out.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just say before, I know Derek wants to say something, but the de-escalation rooms, Lisa, they have all the walls up to 7 feet, which is the top of a door, have like gymnasium padding on them.
Okay.
But Derek,
No, I had my hand up just about something else, but I did want to say that to Lisa. Those are 2 independent spaces, the DTI and the deregulation rooms. I know that Mike had sent this information to myself and Bob. Again, this is obviously my first project as a superintendent. I know that we do have quite a bit of money in contingency, but I feel, and I think Bob felt the same way, that when we were specking out the drywall that we currently have, I think everyone was confident in that product, and I just don't know if we're too early in the project to start to really make some of these big money changes, because we don't know what's coming down the pike, and that was kind of my biggest concern. And I think I want to speak for Bob Pacheco, but I think that's a concern that we both shared. And not that we wouldn't want a more durable product if we could. I'm just worried about too big of a priced change orders early in the project, and eating through some of that contingency money we may need down the line, or just at the end of the day be able to save the taxpayers of Bridgewater that money. So that's just, I just kind of wanted to chime in on my thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. And it is early in the project, cost wise, but it is time in the project. Like Gene said, we've started to see the submittals for these products that we would be replacing with these substitutes. So, it is the time to be thinking about this stuff, but it's, in a way, it's not the time to be, shooting our shots that we have in reserve,
Thank you.
So can I just ask a question to Mike and Gene? If we want Bacon to move forward with that gym storage, are you asking us to vote on that tonight? Because to Bob and Derek's point, the rest of this, I'm not sure, as I read through this, is of value. I would rather see us put that that savings into things that directly impact our students and have direct educational value versus drywall.
Gene, would you, I mean, so, you know, as the project's rolling, as coordination continues, you know, we're continually at this point working on the next ASI essentially, right? So,
Right.
Gene, would you need to be directed to include the change just for the PE storage, you know, to go with the plywood?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
This
need a
meeting?
vote or I don't need a.
Yeah, I
vote
didn't
or
think
anything.
so.
We
Yeah.
we could just ask Bacon for a price to do that, you know, and again, this is our guess, so we'll see what they come back with.
Right, and then eventually it'll be put to a vote, but not at this stage.
Right, right, yeah,
Okay. Thanks.
yeah. So I chewed up a bunch of your evening with this. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good to be thinking about this stuff.
Absolutely. Thanks.
But I think
And
that's,
actually, the existing wall finish column is good to just remind everyone about all the good stuff we put in, like, you know, in the receiving areas, in the DTI, the de-escalation areas, you know, it just shows the thought that went into the original design.
cool, good, good. Well, we try to. So that I think might have been the biggest thing on our report, Mike. Otherwise, you know, for all of you that are worried, I feel much better. but I'm sorry, I'm really sorry I missed the topping off ceremony, and I hope it was a really great time. If anyone has any pictures, send them along.
I think it was well received.
They're
It
usually
didn't
pretty-
rain.
They're usually pretty fun. Oh, I need a t-shirt too. Has anyone got a t-shirt for me?
There's got to be some extras. Yeah, we'll hook you up. Well, thank you, Gene. I guess could Gene and John, could you give us a little comment on just the overall quality that you're seeing and you know, what you're seeing from our contractor overall?
I have no issues at all. I've said it many, many times that if you can get a contractor that cares, you've got 80% of the battle. And this super cares, and this project management team they have, they care. They ask questions. They talk to us about things before they do things that they could just go ahead and do. So the overall quality from the subs and the contractors is excellent. And we've had no major deficiencies, no major issues. It's going very, very smoothly, and it's a testament to their caring, and that's important.
Yeah, thank you, John. Any questions for RDA?
So we're on to item 11, report of the communication group.
Yep. So the big thing was the topping off ceremony that was last Thursday. I want to thank Lil, Judy McDougall, Eric Delisle, and Bob Pacheco and his team for really the work that they put in for it. And Joe and Mike, thanks for the 11th hour extra beam for the kids to sign.
That was clutch. Yeah.
Yeah. Gene, we definitely have photos. We'll get those to you. We actually have to get them from Christina. So we're working on getting those from her. And that's really at this point where we're at. We are, believe it or not, starting to talk about the ribbon cutting ceremony already.
Oh, just to chime in, shout out to Alyssa, who is not with us. She's on vacation, but you know, she had such a big part in setting that up, and
yes,
also has such a big part behind the scenes in managing this project for us. So thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mike.
that was great. It went off well planned. Thank you, everybody.
That's all I've got, John.
All right, thank you. Item 12, the next building committee meeting. We're not going to have Monday.
Oh, no, the next one we do. So September.
Well, I mean, didn't we have one scheduled for
Yeah,
next
we
week?
don't have
Oh,
one.
all right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was
Yeah.
getting ahead of you.
Yeah, so we're not going to have that. We're going to let Josh
Thank you for
know
everything.
to not post that or whatever we have to do, if anything, because we took care of all that business tonight. And then the next one is, Michael, you were saying?
Yeah, so that'll be September 13th. And then we talked about in October, we're gonna move it from the 11th to the 18th.
Okay. Oh, let's see, Mark. Yeah, Mark's reminding us to thank BTV for being there, putting a nice video together. So thanks to BTV.
Impressive drone work.
Yes, that was neat.
It was.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, any item 13, any new business?
Nothing here.
All right. 14, public comment. Is there anybody either from the committee or from the public? I can't see everybody.
No,
All right. A motion to adjourn would be entertained then.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Mark.
all right. Motion made and seconded. The roll call. John,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Michael Osh,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Mike Dolan,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
and Mark Lindy.
Yes.
It is unanimous.
Have a great night, everybody.
Well, thanks for everybody for
Bye.
adjusting your schedule.
Mike.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.